Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lesser Known But Awesome Heroes. And today, I'm actually going to be talking to you guys about I'm going to dive into the fantasy universe of DC to bring you a character that I think is pretty cool, and I think you may actually agree with it, hopefully too, and that is the character of Travis Morgan, also known as the Warlord. And Warlord was at and Warlord was both written and created by Mike Grell, Grell, and his first appearance would be in first issue special number 8 in November of 1975. And also, it is duly noted in his publication history that Morgan actually would go through many different phases. When he debuted, it was right around the Silver to beginning part of the Bronze Age, or at least the middle, depending on who you ask. And the thing about Morgan is that which I actually have this issue if you looked at my book collection videos, or I'll rather feature it because I'm contemplating doing another book series video, but that's not the point. We're focusing on the character right now, not my other plans. But regardless, guys, the first volume is arguably the volume that most comic fans of the Warlord remember. However, interestingly enough, back in 2006, and even right around the 80s, they tried to do a short-lived miniseries just to try to wrap up the main series from Volume 1. Volume 2, back in 2006, they tried to actually revitalize and contemporize the Warlord. However, it had so many flaws story-wise that it was canceled after 10 issues due to low sales, and it was completely barred from main continuity. It was considered an Elseworlds take on the character. Also, Volume 3, which ran for 16 issues, would bring Grell back. Would bring Mike Grell back to actually, shall we say, write certain bits of this third alleged volume, which was in 2008 to 2009, and it was to celebrate the character's 35th anniversary. And it was basically kind of picked up where the main series had left off in the Bronze Age. And so that was pretty much, the end of that. Not really much history, shall we say, to the character. But in terms of his powers and abilities, he, has basic firearms use, of course being a military trained man, which I'll get into in a second. Hand-to-hand combat, he has good leadership skills, he has strong survival training, is an expert swimmer, was an extremely decent swordsman, considering that allegedly his character took a lot of fencing classes, and even more when one of his companions, who was a Russian fencing champion, whose name I will get to you in a moment, actually helped him out. Tactical analysis. He learned expert tracking from his barbarian wife Tara and her tribe. And I'm not quite sure, I'm just going to spell this whole entire word out. Equestrianism. And it's interesting and interestingly enough, the weapons that he carried was a hand-forged sword, which they called the Warlord sword, and he carried a .44 Magnum. And formerly he had an SR-71 Blackbird, however that would be shot down. Interestingly enough, when the character debuted, he was actually a veteran of the Vietnam War. And in fact, actually, during the Vietnam War, his plane was actually shot down and landed in the ocean. He was also a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force. It says he flew jets over Vietnam and later flew an SR Blackbird spy plane over Russia. Was a photo mission over Siberia that his disabled plane soared over the Terminator, which was the edge of the world, into the inner world of Scartera. It's also been revealed that apparently Morgan is the reincarnation of several well-known characters throughout history. In past lives, he had been Sir Lancelot, a member of the Three Musketeers, Jim Bowie, and Crazy Horse, along with many others, who are most commonly soldiers and or warriors. There has also been a uniquely hilarious joke throughout the entire Warlord series that he resembles Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow. This is mainly due to the fact that that back during the Bronze Age he had strong facial hair that looked like the Van Dyke that everybody knows Green Arrow to have, but that also face-wise he was designed after Oliver Queen, but in fact he was actually designed after Mike Grell himself, who in a little bit of fun trivia for you guys, was actually a former United States, Air Forceman. So so he basically created and modeled the character in a sense after himself. Some would call that egotistical. I call that actually kind of humorous. And many characters would actually joke about this. Dead Man in Kevin Smith's Quiver storyline actually would joke about the reference. Aquaman, right around the time that Oliver Queen was considered dead before he got revived by Hal Jordan, he thought that it was Ollie since he passed through a portal that led to Scartera. And also, what's interesting is that eventually Mike Grell, during his run on Green Arrow, decided to put these rumors to rest and poke fun at it. To which apparently Travis Morgan somehow left Scartera and was walking through the streets of Seattle, was beat up by parts of the criminal underworld, thinking that he was Ollie, and in fact he went to Oliver Queen's house, blacked out, and basically told him very affirmatively, whatever you did to piss these people off, please stop it. And he blacked out. And Mike Grell in an illustration showed that, yeah, he was designed similarly to Green Arrow, but there were vast differences. One, his facial hair was more pronounced than Ollie's. Number two, he was actually taller than Ollie. And also, he was significantly older. But he is still the butt of jokes that he looks a lot like the Conan the Barbarian version of Green Arrow. Also, an interesting little tidbit to note before I go into the character. Oh, I thought that the audio feed stopped there for a second. Sorry, guys. And it's also worth noting that actually Travis Morgan is the older brother of Ace Morgan of the Challengers of the Unknown. So yeah, by blood, guys, he is actually the brother of Kyle Morgan, or Ace, as many Challengers of the Unknown fans, myself included, know him as. So that's kind of cool. So in and of itself, guys, that's pretty much actually all the information that I really need to give extracurricularly for the Warlord, because I've droned on way too damn much about Travis Morgan. So with that, guys, I think I'm actually going to get into Travis Morgan's actual biography and quit spouting out random facts that I'm sure you guys probably don't care about. So let's move on to Travis Morgan's actual origins, shall we? However short they may be. Okay, so basically, guys, in a nutshell, to put it shortly, when it comes to Travis Morgan, he was actually a Vietnam veteran. He was an SR-71 pilot who had actually passed through a hole in the Earth's crust while he was flying over the North Pole in 1969. and he had landed in the underground world of Scartera, a place that was a mixture of swords, sorcery, and dinosaurs. And when he arrived there, he was wielding his 44 auto mag pistol, and eventually his queen and wife Terra would aid him, and he would become the Warlord and would unite to free the people of Scartera from the rule of the evil sorcerer Deimos, Deimos, as well as various other tyrannical kings. And along the way, he would gain various sidekicks, such as the later Warrior King, I'm kind of stuttering over his name. I'll just spell it out. Machiste. Shakira, or Shakira, however you want to pronounce that, a Russian who ironically was actually a feline shapeshifter, which was kind of cool. A Russian scientist named Marith, there we go, that was the fencing champion that I was talking about earlier, and he would eventually bore a magic-wielding daughter named Jennifer in one story arc. And during a later actually during one particular story arc, possibly an Elseworlds deal, Morgan even would actually become the United States president in the far future. And in terms of, yeah, it's rummaging through here, it's pretty much basically Travis Morgan would actually die. That eventually Scartera would be revealed to the world. His son and that Tender would actually be revealed to be his son Jacob. And apparently his son would become the new Warlord. Yeah. And interestingly enough, his son would actually carry a sword, a dagger, a quiver of arrows, and a bow. And that he would be involved in the Flashpoint storyline, though this was small and subsequent in the fact that, let's face it, I don't like Flashpoint because we all know where that led to. But anyway, guys, all bias aside, this has been my video on the Warlord. This has been my video on the Warlord, guys, so hopefully you actually enjoyed it. I'm going to go work on some of the other characters. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and as always, guys, stay tuned for the next one.